Welcome to episode 117 of the Half Point Per podcast. I am your host, Evan Riggs, joined as always by my co-host, Dalton Willie. No Johnny Pham tonight. He is off kicking the ball. Dalton, how are you doing after a just wild week one that had the wildest of wild endings?
I am doing well. It was not the most exciting week. Obviously, when offense is not the name of the game for most of the games, other than the Chargers-Dolphins week, fantasy suffers, and you get some weird outliers. Like I think Tyler Allgeier's RB1 on the week, and if you would have asked me to predict that coming into week one, I don't think I would have 1,000 times.
Yeah, and I think none of the top 5 drafted quarterbacks finished in the top 10 besides Mahomes, who I think was like QB7 or something like that. Now, obviously, he could have been maybe like QB4 if guys would have got the ball. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, who am I missing? Fields maybe was in that group. I don't know. But yeah,
no, he scored 14 points.
I mean, in that group of not being in the top 10, and then or of being a top 5 guy, I can't remember. Oh, Lamar Jackson being the other one who had a fine game, but no touchdowns for him. So not a great fantasy week. And, we're in a dynasty league, and so those matchups are a little bit different. Teams are in different places. But I think we have 2 teams over 100 points this week.
Yeah. And some teams under 70. Not name names.
And now, obviously, again, dynasty league, so it's a little bit different. And we also don't play with defenses, so nobody in our league got the Cowboys 37-point boost. The Cowboys, by the way, I believe were like the 3rd highest scoring player, maybe 2nd. I think it was Tyreek Hill, then the Cowboys, then Tua were the 3 highest scoring players of this weekend. So if that tells you how week one went in a nutshell, pretty much.
Well, then the Cowboys get Daniel Jones or Zach Wilson next week. So
yep, and that is a great transition, Dalton, to where we are going to start this one off today. Aaron Rodgers, Monday Night Football, runs out the American flag. The atmosphere was pretty impeccable. I was excited for it. Vibes were high, and then 4 plays into the game, he goes down. And you kind of think, I don't know, it didn't look like much, but then as we start to get word, we realized it, in fact, was a big deal. Turns out Rodgers tore his Achilles, obviously out for the year. And whether I believe this or not, the Jets are saying it. Zach Wilson is their guy the rest of the year. Let's just go under that assumption for right now, because that is what they're saying. What does this mean for Breece Hall, who looked as good as you could expect? Now the snaps were limited, but the big plays were not for Breece. And then Garrett Wilson, who, bless his heart, did everything in his power to catch a touchdown the other night. What does this mean for those 2 guys who we all had such high hopes for if they were healthy this year?
Well, I think it says a lot that a team that forced 4 turnovers had to go to overtime to win the game, and then won the game on a special teams play.
Well, and they get the ball and run 3 straight times. I think on 1st and 15 and kick the field goal, where it's like you just get 1 first down, you're kicking a field goal with no time left.
Yeah, it's not good. There's the famous Warren Sharp tweet. I'm sure we've showed on here before. Last year, anybody not named Zach Wilson averaged over 300 yards for the Jets. Anybody named Zach Wilson averaged 180 yards. Like, he is a significant downgrade for their offense.
I think Garrett Wilson averaged like 48 yards per game with Zach Wilson at quarterback.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson had to use the force of God to catch the touchdown pass he did in week one, and he's going to need to do that all week long, all season long. I mean, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are the only 2 weekly starts on his team, and I feel uneasy about Garrett Wilson.
Well, even Breece, he is less impacted than a receiver just because he doesn't rely on the quarterback literally every time to get him the ball. But, depending on how long Breece stays on this snap count, which I think is smart, and I think they should keep doing it because we want Breece healthy all season. We want him there for the fantasy playoffs. It could be a little dicey. Now, am I saying bench Breece? Of course, after what you saw last week, you can't bench Breece Hall, but it's going to be a little bit scary, I think, if Breece Hall in this offense with that quarterback is getting 10 carries every game, because he's great and he can make big plays happen, especially if they're blocked up well, which a couple of those were there tonight. But he even, a completely healthy and back Breece Hall probably houses that touchdown, but he still had to do a lot to beat the safety, to beat Jordan Poyer before that. showed some acceleration, changed his direction. It could have honestly been like a conditioning thing on the touchdown too. We just don't know, but he's just not quite himself. But neither here nor there. If we're getting snap count and 10 to 12 carry Breece Hall, you start it and you hope, but you don't feel good about it at all.
Yeah, and now's the time for the conversation that no one wanted to have in the offseason, which is Nathaniel Hackett is calling plays.
Yeah.
And
suddenly the Jets are in the hands of Zach Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett.
Which is a doomsday scenario. Like we saw this last year. It's going to be week 3 and the Jets are going to have a goal line run where Breece Hall lines up at a shotgun and everybody's going to wonder why. And then Dalvin Cook gets like 16 carries and looks like not good in those 16 carries.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fantasy terror because this team is going to want to play slow. They're going to want to play methodical. And they're going to want to really put this on the backs of their defense. And they're going to do it all season long. And they'll probably be a good NFL team. But fantasy, I mean, if I have Garrett Wilson and someone is like offering me Stephon Diggs or anybody, I'm just selling. I'm selling for any wide receiver who is a wide receiver 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Thinking redraft, we'll talk about this guy later, Calvin Ridley.
Go to the T. Higgins owner right now.
Yeah,
if they're stat watching and be like, hey, straight up Garrett Wilson for T. I'd do it.
Yeah, I would definitely take the T. Higgins side of that, at least with how things stand right now. I mean, I know this is what they're saying. I can't believe they're really going to just roll with Zach Wilson. I mean, you look at it, they had such a high-profile divorce from this guy last year where he was playing terribly. Was he injured or benched earlier in the season, or both?
Both at different times, I believe.
So he comes back only because I'm losing track of. I think Mike White, was it Mike White last year? Was
he got
he there?
A concussion.
So Mike White gets hurt, and they finally have to bring Zach Wilson back, and it's just atrocious. Like getting booed off the field at halftime. One of the worst performances I've ever seen in whatever primetime game that was. Like, it just really feels like there's no coming back from that. I don't know why the Jets didn't go address QB2. Not that you have to make it a high priority, but just get a veteran in there, just a solid veteran. Do the Chiefs model where you have the Blaine Gabbert, the Chad Henne, who they've already reached out to allegedly. I think that was a Jordan Schultz. So I'm not sure if I'm taking that one to the bank or not. But God, I just hope they go get somebody. What I think my fantasy trade for them would be go get Kyler Murray. Go use the first round pick that you get back. Now, maybe they're thinking they got Rodgers next year. I don't think they should be thinking that because while they've been adamant he's not retiring, what's he going to look like age 40 coming off an Achilles? Or maybe he will just retire. I don't think anyone can say for certainty what that guy is going to do a calendar year from now. But go get Kyler Murray. Try and scrap through the next couple of weeks without him, and let's just see what happens. Like, you owe it to this defense, to these young weapons to go grab somebody. Now, I don't know financially how easy that is to make work, but that's just my fantasy land trade that I'd like to see. Makes sense for the Cardinals. I mean, just give the Cardinals another pick, give him the opening draft Caleb Williams in the offseason. It's a win-win.
Well, I even got excited about – I saw they were tied to Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, that'd be a good one too.
And I was like, oh, well, that's something. Like,
I mean, if they get last year's Jacoby Brissett, that's probably a 10-11 win team.
Yeah, anybody is better. I mean, like Matt Ryan was tied to them. That's better than Zach Wilson at this point, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that one might be a little debatable, but probably.
It's terrible. Maybe they call the Rams if the Rams are still trading Stafford. I don't know if they can afford that, but they got to do something. If they don't, I don't want any player on this team.
Agree with you, Dalton. Let's jump into the main topic of today's show. We're talking all things week 1. We have a nice little slate of 20 quick topics. We're going to go through. If we buy it, that means we think it's true. If we sell it, that means we think it's false. And then skeptical, which is self-explanatory, basically just a patience, let's wait and see how it plays out sort of deal. So buy, sell, skeptical. Let's start in Atlanta, not with Bijan Robinson, Dalton, but with Tyler Algier, who you mentioned. Was he the RB1? He was at least a top 2 or 3 running back if he wasn't. Tyler Algier is going to have a low-end RB2 value rest of season. Buy, sell, or skeptical from you?
I'm buying for a couple reasons. One,
Ooh.
it's Jamal Williams 2.0, what we have here, in my opinion. Looking at the Falcons, I just need to tell myself they're not going to do what I want them to do. What I want them to do is an 80% snap share from Bijan Robinson and
That's true.
to pass to their players they wasted. Top
We'll get
15,
to
16.
that.
Yes. So I'm buying. I think he's their goal line back. It looks like that's how they want to use him. The Bijan fumble, before the Bijan fumble, it was a 50-50 split. After, it was a 75-25 split. That's probably just Arthur Smith like letting his young guy take a lick, and like they didn't need Bijan in that game. Algier also ripped off a like 35-yard run in the game, so he has the juice for him.
Yeah.
And just going back to the same thing we saw last year, even if this team's down by 3 scores, I'm confident they're going to run the ball as much as they can. They will rotate Bijan and Tyler Algier out. I think that he is a weekly flex value with high touchdown upside like we saw this week. I will continue to buy wherever I can.
Yeah, I agree that he's a weekly flex value, but I have him a little bit lower than like RB2. I'd still have him outside the top 30 of running backs, I think, even with this week. So I'm selling. I know you're right. They're going to run, even when they're behind, they're going to run more than we want. But they were either tied or ahead this entire game. So game script kind of allowed them to really go full bore into the running back thing. I mean, I think the snaps are something like 65 to 55. These guys are both on the field a lot. Maybe they'll continue. Their running backs had something like a 53% target share, which is just absurd, while Drake London has 1 target in the game and 0 receptions, which, oh, God. I'm just selling because I still don't think Algier is that good. I think he's fine. Like, good power back, solid player, in a great scheme. And I think he can be a great complement to Bijan. But I do think Bijan will eventually start to eat into this a little bit more. He did have the edge in passing, like in routes run, but the rushing snaps were 60%, 40% in rushing share in favor of Algier. And I just think that's going to flip. And when that flips, I think the value is just not quite there for Algier at that price.
Yeah, I still think a 40% rushing share in this offense is higher than like a 70% in some other offenses that just don't run the ball as frequently. I mean, they had 16 total pass attempts. They play the South 6 games, 5 more games in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And any game they have a 7-point, a 3-point, or even a negative 7-point lead, they're going to come out there and they're going to not want to put the ball in Desmond Ritter's hands and make him make decisions. So I'm just confident that Algier is going to continue to get it. And I think he's the goal line back. I think without a doubt he is.
Again, I just think that could be very subject to change. I'm not ready to quite draw the goal line back conclusion after week 1, but it's possible. It's definitely possible. I think it's all a lot of guessing. And
you're making the assumption of rational coaching in Atlanta.
You mentioned Drake Ritter. I think he was, or Desmond Ritter, excuse me. I'm thinking Drake London here. I think Desmond Ritter was at 1 point 3 for 3 for negative something yards and 1 touchdown, which is just hilarious. And let's look to his main man, who we want to be his main man at least, Drake London. Dalton, is it time to sound the alarm on Drake London after a 1 target, no reception game?
I mean, I'm not. First of all, I saw some drop Drake London for Puka Nacua on Twitter. I wouldn't go that far because one guy is a very, very talented player. He's definitely not getting a start this week or for like at least 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not dropping him yet because of his talent level.
Oh, sure.
But between Desmond Ritter's continued inaccuracies, this has rolled over now to this season. Last week, in week 1, and this is taking away, because I think it's needed, his 1 catch that he threw to himself. Desmond Ridder was the 3rd least accurate starting quarterback in week 1, which continues the trend we saw last year where he's inaccurate. And then between 1 target for Drake London, 2 for Kyle Pitts, and then like 4 to Mac Hollins, and then 6 to Bijan, and 3 to Tyler Algier, I'm just confident that the game plan is not made for Drake London, and it won't be made for him. So I don't want to start him because I'm really praying that there's like a massive fundamental change in the mentality of this team. And I don't think they're going to have one anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm going skeptical here. People know, obviously, I was big on Drake London before the season. I'm still big on the player. Definitely dubious of the situation, more so than before. And I already was before. He led the team with 20 routes run. 20. That some teams will do that in one quarter if they have the ball long enough. Like that. That's just absurd. Like the floor is obviously lower than I would have thought, given the fact that you can have one target, no receptions. I didn't have that one in this range of outcomes. I didn't have a great deal of confidence in Ritter. Even that has been lowered a little bit, but I still just think the player is good enough that he will have his good weeks. Will he be frustrating? Probably. And can you start him next week? Probably not, unless you're pretty desperate with injuries, which maybe you are. Maybe you had J.K. Dobbins and Deontay Johnson, and you don't have a choice. There are definitely people out there like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would start guys like Zay Jones, Josh Reynolds, Nico Collins.
Oh, Josh Reynolds, that sent the
Allen
chill.
Robinson. Those are all guys I'd start over at this point.
See, I'm not going quite that far, but I get it.
20 routes, like that is absurd. How it is terrible.
He's not even getting like the, Sky Moore had whatever it was, 2 targets, but this crazy high route participation. It's like, oh, you can't even get the cardio jokes off with Drake London because he's not even getting the cardio, and he's getting like a warm up, like a light exercise.
His 5% per route run target rate. That's what you got if you're desperate.
Okay, on the Bengals, we should lower expectations for all Bengals weapons this season. I am going sell. I am pretty sure you're with me on that. Dalton, are you with me on that, sell?
Yeah, no, I'm selling that one, even if I hate the Bengals.
Yeah, like Burrow missed all of camp, probably a little bit of rust there. The Browns defense was just flat out really, really good. Myles Garrett just wrecked the game. Like Matt Harmon has been saying this all week, the defensive players get paid too. And this is definitely one of those games where the defensive players made their money and completely took over this game. Now, could the Bengals have played better? Of course, they could have played better. Even with the offensive line, you would think they could draw up some stuff to just like throw a screen pass to Jamar Chase, a couple maybe. Just get the ball in his hands instead of every time Burrow is running for his life, both of his best players are 15 yards away from him. But that's just kind of classic Bengals growing pains that we seem to have to go through at the beginning of every season. I think the guy that most people are probably talking about with this conversation is T. Higgins, who you mentioned earlier. 8 targets, 0 catches. Did I give you the name of the last player that did that when we had this conversation?
No, you didn't. Is it a recent name?
Well, hold on. Let me just tee this up and we can get this drop back here. There has been one player in the last 8 years, and it happened in 2015, who had at least 8 targets and 0 catches.
Who's that Pokemon?
Can I get a quarterback?
I don't know who. Well, actually, I do know who his quarterback was, but that would give it away. He is currently still playing, and he is in the same division as the Bengals.
AFC North?
Yes.
And he's still playing in the AFC North?
Yeah. This didn't happen in the AFC North. I didn't say that.
Okay.
He's in that division right now.
Is it Odell Beckham Jr.?
Good guess, but no. Amari Cooper in 2015. With if I said Derek Carr, I know immediately you're going probably to Amari Cooper. So,
yeah. Dang it! No, I thought it might have been Odell with a bad Eli year.
Or Odell. I mean, I said 2015, but it could have easily been Odell with Baker Mayfield later on if I didn't give you the year. So yeah, I have nothing much more to add on the Bengals. I think we're staying the course. We're starting the guys this week, and you just have to kind of stay in the flames a little bit. Anything else you want to add there?
No, I mean, that Browns defense is legitimate. Like, it is just very good. And what they put on paper with Jim Schwartz was exciting and it was going to be fun to watch, not from a fantasy perspective, but like from a real NFL perspective. Mm-hmm. And they're going to figure it out. Like last year, there was an overreaction to what the Bengals put on the field against the Steelers. Obviously, it's not very pretty and no one wants to deal with those games, but it's going to turn around. They're going to have better days. I would watch the offensive line play because it does look like if Joe Burrow gets hurried that fast, there's a problem because he wasn't able to get out of the pocket. But it's nothing I'm concerned about right now.
Yeah, and Myles Garrett with Zadarius Smith is one of the better pass rush combos probably right now. But also, you look at that division, the Ravens don't terrify you, but also they have another game against the Browns. And then they have TJ Watt.
And Alex Highsmith.
Yeah, so there's definitely a fair share of good pass rushers. We can be quick with this one, I think. Dalton, we should be worried about Josh Allen. I'm selling. I know it was bad, but Josh Allen's been a roller coaster for the last couple of years. And kind of like Burrow, just too long a track record for me to be any kind of worried right now. I think he'll be just fine.
I'm skeptical.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It's the expectation of what Josh Allen should be doing for you based like you took him in the third round, probably early to mid. So there's an expectation that he needs to be like a 25 to 30 point dog for you weekly for you to win some of your weeks. And I mean, going back, I had Josh Allen ranked a little lower than consensus at QB5.
Yep.
And my biggest concern with Josh Allen was another year removed from Brian Daboll's offense is going to create some haywire and some wild plays. And it looks like his offensive coordinator has leaned into that. There were multiple underneath routes that Josh Allen had wide open in that Jets game, and he just chucked it.
Well, and just on top of that, he had the play where he could have run out of bounds, was actually heading out of bounds, turned back upfield just to get hit by like 3 defenders at the same time. There was the play in the first half where he threw the pick, just where he chucked it like 40 yards down the field. You know, Michael Irvin actually made the point that I thought was interesting. He was getting mad at Diggs and the coach. I'm blanking on their coach's name right now, McDermott, for continuously doing this to Josh Allen, pointing at their head, like telling him to be smarter, telling him to like just leave him alone. And he basically said on that interception that he threw the double coverage, he looked like he was trying to satisfy an unhappy receiver. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting angle that I hadn't thought of, but makes a little bit of sense, you know, based on what we know. But I'm still not worried. It's still too early. I think this is just we're starting at the bottom of the roller coaster this year.
Yeah, I mean the Jets are a good defense, but I'm skeptical if you're expecting him to. The Patriots, he plays twice, and I think their defense is very, very good as well.
We saw that.
So I'm just skeptical. I this might just be a down year for him. I don't think he could just end up being like QB7 and you're disappointed.
It could happen. All right, Puka Nacua, to get on to some positive stuff here. Are you buying, Dalton, that Puka Nacua is an every week start until Cooper Kupp returns?
Not really. I know he's like a popular waiver ad this week.
Yeah.
Ad. He gets San Francisco this week. It's going to be a tough game for that offensive line in the Rams. And it's just too much too soon for me to believe into it. Sean McVay is a very, very good play caller. Like in the same like Tutu Atwell should be an every week start if we're doing this, you know?
Well, that's the next question. So let's bundle it into one here.
Yeah, I'm selling both. I think Matt Stafford is a required start. And I think that we forgot how creative of a play caller Sean McVay is because of what he had to work under. But I'm not going to buy into starting anybody on this team, but probably Tyler Higbee and then Cooper Kupp when he gets back for some time going forward.
I am buying Puka Nacua. I'm selling Tutu Atwell. I'm skeptical on Tutu and leaning sell. I'm definitely not starting him next week. Puka Nacua, I am on board. He and Zay Flowers are the only 2 guys to hit a 40% target share this week. The kid looked good. Most importantly, Stafford looked really good. The arm was lively. Now, does he stay healthy? That is the biggest question mark with Stafford still. But, you know, they had kind of been telling us, they being the Rams and beat reporters, that he had a pretty healthy offseason, and we just really weren't. It seemed like nobody was really taking that cheese because we were so afraid of what we had just seen and everything we'd heard about how bad the injury was, how he was having the neck issues, and he was maybe going to retire. The team wanted to trade him, and he looked pretty darn good. And this is a guy that was only in the slot about a third of the time. He can move around. He can complement Cooper Kupp when he's back. He reminds me, it's funny, he reminds me a lot of Robert Woods. There were people calling him major poor man's Deebo Samuel before he had played. So a poor man's Deebo Samuel, similar to Robert Woods, like he's got some rushing stuff in the bag that he did in college that he hasn't shown yet too. I think he's a start. I know it's a tough matchup, but I'm firing him up this week if I need a receiver start.
Yeah, I'm just out. I need to see more. The Rams just able to dictate that game once both offensive tackles went out for the Seahawks. That is a situation worth monitoring really for a while. The good news is the Rams' second-round pick, Avila from TCU, looks like what they needed at guard and is a stabilizing force on that line. And if that is a thing going forward, then they become a very good pass offense, which is I would want to buy shares into.
Yeah. And, 2-2 for me, it's just we have a decent sample size of him not really doing anything in the NFL. So I just need to see a lot more than 1 week before I'm
And he's
leaning.
150 pounds.
Yeah, I think he's actually gained weight. He's like listed at 165. Now, how true that is, I don't know. But
He
yeah,
got wet before he got on the scales. What happened?
I'll skip the next one here just to bundle the Rams all in one. Kyren Williams, probably the biggest, well, him and Puka equally big. Rams story of the weekend. Are we buying Kyren Williams as the running back to own in this backfield and not Cam Akers, though?
I don't think there's a running back to own in this backfield, so I'm selling. I mean, Cam Akers got a lion's share of touches still. He got 22 touches. I know 22 on 29 looks bad,
Do you know what the snap count was in the first half, though?
It wasn't 50-50?
In the first half?
No,
I guess I need to double check this. I am pretty sure it was 26-3 in the first half.
in favor of Kyren?
Yeah.
Wow. That is wild.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to go dark for a second here because I just unplugged my speaker, so I can't hear you.
No worries. But yeah, I'm not quite as skeptical as you, but I'm still going skeptical on Kyren Williams. He at least has to be ranked ahead of Cam Akers this week. And again, the snaps, I'm pretty certain 26-3 in favor of Kyren this week. The buzz all offseason was the third down role was his. He's got it locked down. He's going to be out there on third downs. And then just McVay flips that on its head, and he's just the guy. So much so where it's like, oh my God, like what is happening? Like, is Cam Akers hurt? What is going on right now? He ends up with 22 carries for a hilarious 29 yards, saved his day with a touchdown. But man, just McVay has done so much jerking around of fantasy football managers these last couple of years with this backfield. Just proceed with caution. And I think, waiver wire has already passed. So if you spent the fab, you spent the fab. What I would be doing is not anything actionable yet. Just keep your eye on Zach Evans because I still don't really think Kyren is that good. I think he's a good third down back. I don't think he's a very good overall back. Cam Akers, clearly they're looking for somebody else to fill that role. I think at some point, Zach Evans will have value this year. And, you don't have to go pick him up now, but the first time you see him active on game day, maybe if you have the roster spot, just go give it a little stash. That would be my actionable advice here.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think Zach Evans is the guy I want, mostly because we both think he's a good player, and they didn't have a lot of draft picks in this draft, and they still decided to take him.
Trade up for him.
Yeah. When it comes to this Cam Akers versus Kyren Williams fight, I don't think either guy is the guy to own. It's still not a good offensive line. It looked good because they weren't able to generate pressure because they were up by so many points that they were dropping back into coverages, trying to prevent the Rams from running the score up on them. This is a game that I'm not going to look too far into because the game plan would arrive pretty quickly when two tackles go down for the other team, and it spiraled for the Seahawks. Then I went back and I watched some of the snaps too, and I mean, like some of the runs Kyren had, the linebackers just bit off of like a bad play action, and then the same thing didn't happen for Cam Akers, who got stuffed in the hole on the same run play. So all in all, I think it's going to be a frustrating backfield. If you spend a lot of fab on Kyren, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't have done that.
Yep. With you there. All right. Jordan Love will be good enough to maintain fantasy value for Packers skill position players. And I am putting this one down as a big fat skeptical. He did nothing in the game on Sunday to make me think he can't necessarily, but he was just so unbothered by the Bears, not because he's that good, because the Bears were that bad. And also he had guys wide open. He had two plays, I think, that were just completely busted coverages down the field. He had multiple plays where receivers got big time yak for him, which, I mean, hey, great. Everybody gets that. But it's just, I need to see more out of Jordan Love, out of this offense before I really, number one, feel great about the status of the weapons. Obviously, Aaron Jones when he's healthy, and then Christian Watson when he's healthy. And then number two, just about Jordan Love. Like Jordan Love could potentially work his way into streamer category if he can keep playing the way he did the other day. Now, with that said, if they don't have Aaron Jones, they don't have Christian Watson, I'm not going to flip the other way and say Jordan Love is completely cooked this season if he looks bad this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I might be leaning closer to sell, but I'm staying skeptical just because we haven't seen a ton of Jordan Love. But there's a non-existent defensive line for the Bears. It was a position of need, so much so that people thought they were going to add after the roster cut downs, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. And then their secondary is just as bereft of talent. All they have is first-round pick Kyler Gordon, who was one of the most targeted corners last season. Like, he's not good at his job. And then, like, one of the 3 plays that their offensive line broke down was like a huge just throwaway by Jordan Love is the moment he rolled out, the moment he was under pressure. So I'm just not buying that the moment he plays an NFL level defense, he's going to be as good as he was on Sunday. And it's just a lot of guys like this room already between Luke Musgrave, who I think a lot of people think is now a popular waiver pickup. And then you have Romeo Doubs, who I'm still skeptical of, but got 2 touchdowns. And then Christian Watson, who hasn't played. And then Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. That's 5 players that are like fantasy relevant that you're expecting Jordan Love to carry this offense to. So pretty skeptical of it, probably closer to buying. There was a pretty fun quote at the end of the game where they asked.
Closer to selling, you mean, right?
Yes, selling. Sorry. Yeah. They asked head coach of the Green Bay Packers if Jordan Love audibled once and he didn't. Like, it's way different from Aaron Rodgers. They're running his offense now. But it's just worrisome that, like, I don't think this guy really knows ball. I don't think the Packers thought he knew ball because they didn't want to pay him. They didn't want to extend his 5th-year contract. So we'll see. There's plenty of football to be played. I'm not there for it. You take away the Aaron Jones 64-yard touchdown, and suddenly this team's they barely beat a Packers team that like that and the pick 6. They barely beat a Bears team that was terrible on the field. So,
yep. Yeah, I'm with you all the way around there. All right, Brian Robinson, Dalton, is the Commanders' clear lead running back. Buy, sell, skeptical.
I'm buying.
Yeah.
Antonio Gibson, dead. Like the moment he fumbled that ball, dead. He was not heard of. Chris Rodriguez, their 6th-round pick out of Kentucky, was on the field. He had a lot higher snap share, which I think was like 18%. But Brad Robinson did the thing that we didn't think he was going to do. He caught a touchdown pass.
It was his one catch and one target, but yes.
It was.
And they both ran 16 routes, but the touches were 20-4 in favor of Brian Robinson.
Yes. This is a rich man's Rachaad White in that I think Brad Robinson's actually like not bad at football, unlike Rachaad White. And if you look back at his like history of rushes since he's been healthy, I don't think he's been below 15 rushes once. So like the work is there. Them playing the Cardinals again isn't there, but it's a volume dependent RB2 with RB1 upside and touchdowns is what he would be. But I'm buying that he's the RB1 here.
Yep, he sounds like new James Conner to me.
Yeah, new James Conner is a great comparison for him as well.
All right, Kenny Gainwell, Dalton. Buy or sell that he will lead this Philly backfield. Of course, once he's healthy, he is not playing tomorrow night when I made this topic, but I still think it's a worthy conversation to be had.
I'm selling, but that's because I think this is going to be like a Russian roulette situation where somebody is going to lead the backfield every week and it's going to be somebody different. I think this week, my money's on Boston Scott. We'll see. Next week, Rashad Penny. Week 4, DeAndre Swift.
Penny being a healthy scratch was so wild. I don't know if it's like maybe he's not the same guy with the knee. Maybe he is just having health issues that they're not really disclosed. I don't know exactly what the
maybe
story
he
is
has
there.
Juice in him they want to save for the playoffs. Who knows?
But yeah, I'm with you, and I think it is going to be kind of like Russian roulette. And I think really my main thing is I just don't buy that Gainwell is good enough to hold off those others and be just the downright main guy. I think Gainwell's fine, but I think he looked like kind of just a replacement level running back the other day against the Patriots. That was a tough matchup. The team didn't play great, but it's not like Gainwell went out there and just laid a claim to it needing to be his job. You know, like he definitely left the door open. And I kind of think all these guys through injury, through their own inconsistencies of play, whatever the case may be, for various reasons, the door is always going to be left open for whoever is ready to walk through it that week. I think that's going to be the season for the Eagles this year.
Yeah, well, And I know like everybody got up in arms week 1 when Gainwell didn't play in the preseason, and then he played the next week, and DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny were a healthy scratch. I think that's just what Nick Sirianni wants to do with this offense, where he looks at his 4 running backs and he says, well, this week, this is the defense we're playing. These are the players that will do well. These are the players we're going to put on the field. And, I mean, last week, Gainwell's probably their best pass protector, and they played a very, very good rush.
Yeah.
Next
week.
And
it's funny that, sorry to interrupt, but it's funny Sirianni post-game is like, we got to get DeAndre Swift more involved. I think it's going to be like a tradition this year. Like every third game, you could change the name of the running back. We got to get so-and-so more involved. That's just going to be the story of their season.
Well, fantasy Twitter was trying to dissect that quote both ways, where he was like, he'll have some games where he's there a lot and some games he's not. And people were taking it, well, then it's Gainwell's backfield, or, oh, no, next week's the Swift week. Like, I think this is like probably the worst running back by committee in the NFL right now. And you just have to just trust your spot starts. I think it's going to be a lot of reading what the defense gives them, and they're going to put the player out there who's going to do the best, which sucks.
Yeah, at least maybe they'll do us the favor of only having 2 of those main 3 guys active every week. That would be nice.
Yeah.
So we can at least have it narrowed down.
Yeah. And then Boston Scott will just always be the 18% snap share player.
Right.
So
that's right. All right. Christian Kirk and Zay Jones are a wide receiver 2 committee for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dalton, are you buying or are you selling this, or are you skeptical?
I'm skeptical. I need more data.
Yep.
But if I took Christian Kirk early, like a lot of people did, I'm scared. 61% snaps.
He was playing behind Zay Jones in 2 receiver sets. He wasn't out there.
Well, a lot of us thought that Zay Jones was the odd man out with Ridley there. And it might be Christian Kirk's the odd man out in 2 wide receiver sets. And this is an offense with a bad offensive line that needs to run tight end help and to run those chip plays, which means that there's less slot help and less time to have the slot on the field. And in a game where they could have used, more explosive plays because the Colts were really clamping down, they couldn't get Kirk on the field enough. So definitely worry. And then Zay Jones, he legitimately just looks like a good NFL talent. Like he did it again last week. He did it again last season. So skeptical. If I know a lot of fantasy analysts were in on the at cost Christian Kirk over Calvin Ridley. And week 1, they looked pretty stupid.
Let's get the Calvin Ridley buy or sell, which by the way, I'm putting myself down as skeptical for the Christian Kirk thing as well. I am definitely concerned in all the same ways you are. Buy, sell, skeptical. Calvin Ridley is a wide receiver 1 rest of season, and I'm buying this. I'm taking it to the bank. I was looking at rankings this morning. I saw him as high as wide receiver 5, I believe, on a site. And honestly, I don't think it's crazy to say he needs to be right back up there in that 5 to 8 range where he was, 2-3 years ago when he was playing and kind of going full bore for the Falcons. He's in a better situation than he ever was in Atlanta if he's able to stay healthy. He's got a better quarterback than he ever had. He doesn't have Julio Jones there with him either. Like, Zay Jones is fine. Christian Kirk is fine. Neither of them are Julio, obviously. Like, he just looked awesome, man. So fast, crisp on the routes, quick out of the breaks, just a different level of playmaker than anybody else the Jags had. I wish I grabbed the stat, but I know he was among the top 5 in first read target share this week. And it's just very clear that the trust is already there between quarterback and receiver in this case.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the buy. You look at the routes he was running, he put some of those guys in a blender, and the connection between him and his quarterback is already there. Like on his releases, the ball was already out of Trevor Lawrence's hands going to the spot. And those are really encouraging signs. It's not like he had a long touchdown where he just beat his defender. They were just reading each other in motion. Mm-hmm. You see that with Kelsey and Mahomes and Stephon Diggs and Allen and Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. Those are what you want. You want those guys who are just in motion together.
Yep. Agree with you there. I am just could not be more all in on Ridley. Now, we both had him as top 15. If I were re-ranking right now, I'd have him at wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7. Probably. I was just, as a dynasty Calvin Ridley investor, I was hoping and I was thinking he was going to look good. I did not even expect him to look as good as he did.
It's just frustrating. We lost a year of this guy.
Basically, pretty much 2 years.
Yeah, to $1,000 bet.
Yep. All right. Zay Flowers as an every week starter. Buy, sell skeptical.
I mean, we're both big Zay Flowers guys. It's been well known. I'm buying for a couple reasons. That Houston defense is just, I think it's just legitimately good.
Yeah, pretty good.
And what they did to Lamar Jackson, they had a game plan. Robert Saleh, I'd obviously brought over D'Amico Ryans. Like they knew what they were doing in Houston to stop that game. And Lamar Jackson's like emergency go-to valve was Zay Flowers. I'm sure 10 targets a game is going to drop a bit with Mark Andrews in the mix.
Yeah, and plus, the offense, it will continue to evolve and look better as they're more comfortable. It's their first real game in a completely new offense.
But I mean, he cooked Derek Stingley on that one out route I sent to you on a 20-yard out route, and then he just looked the part. He on one of his like gadgety routes where they threw him a screen, he made 3 guys miss to get a first down. Like, those are the things you want. Those are what we expected. He looks like the best rookie out of that class right now this week, and going forward. Very, very excited about this offense. He's beat Rashad Bateman for the wide receiver 1 role so far.
We'll talk about Bateman in a minute there, but yeah, I'm buying this every week start. I mentioned to you that his target share was over 40% with the Puka Nacua thing earlier. 47% target share. JJ Zacharyson says that is the highest by a rookie by far since at least 2011. So who knows how far back that really actually goes. They're going to get the ball in his hands, even with Andrews back. I agree with you. It's all that quick stuff. Like, I think they're going to have a rush or two and some screen passes to him every game, because he is just like, I saw someone say, and I think I even maybe made this exact comment about him at some point. He is, second highest ever for Nacua TS, with Zay Flowers beating him out at 47. Nacua was like at 40. But yeah, it was, I lost my train of thought. I was talking about, get the stuff. Oh, he is so great with the ball in his hands. I made the comment previously that he's like Kadarius Toney with a better work ethic and also better health. Knock on wood. But
I saw that tweet too.
Saw that tweet, and I thought, because we had kind of alluded to that earlier. He's got that type of skill set, but he's also, I think, at least a more refined route runner than Toney. Now, maybe Toney can improve in that area. We'll see. A lot up in the air for
a lot to go there
for Toney right now. But yeah, he's got the juice down the field. He just didn't really have to show it too much. But you said it. He had the out route. He had another like over route. He also had the whip route that he did almost everything except for like run a post route, which if you go back and look at his college tape, he's got plenty of that. And we said a lot during the draft process. He actually plays bigger down the field than Quentin Johnston because he goes and high points the ball down the field. Like, this is a guy who can do that too. So I'm very excited for Zay Flowers. I think he is a locked and loaded start on a weekly basis rest of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that post route point, Lamar Jackson was the 4th quickest time to pressure quarterback. In week 1. Like, they couldn't run the post routes to him because there wasn't time.
And that may continue to be the case for a couple of weeks because no Ronnie Staley, at least for a week or two maybe, and then Lindstrom, their center, also banged up too. So we may be seeing some jet sweeps, some end rounds, some bubble screens continue for Zay Flowers. Real quick, I'll get the TS's question here. Needs one for a flex, full PPR. DeAndre Swift, Jordan Addison, and Puka Nacua. I am going Puka Nacua out of that group. Addison would be my second choice. And I think Addison, actually, if you're looking at the matchup, I think Addison is probably the choice here.
Yeah, but James Bradbury's out with concussion too.
Yeah. So, I think if you're looking for safety, Addison. If you're looking for the most upside, I do still think it is Nacua out of this group, at least this week. And then I'm not playing Swift out of this group. It's very clearly a 1A, 1B, and then Swift a distant third. Who would you prefer out of Addison or Nacua?
I'm flipping with you. I'd take Jordan Addison. I mean, he was the 3rd wide receiver in most sets, but he was better than KJ Osborne. Yeah. I don't know if he'll be the wide receiver 2 on a short week, but I think he's really good. And this Eagles secondary is going to be going after Kirk Cousins. I don't know if you saw Bradbury's out for the Vikings, which means they're going to be coming down the middle. A lot of quick hitters, double coverages of Justin Jefferson. I like Addison here. I think he's in a good spot, so I would go with him.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either Nakua or Addison, to be honest. I think both are good choices. I think you can live with the result of either one. So just preference for you at that point. All right, Dalton, Rashad Bateman. I said we get to him. I think we can just talk through him very quickly. I think he played something like a 38% snap share in this game. So Rashad Bateman, is he the clear wide receiver 3 in Baltimore? I'm going sell, and I'm saying give him time. I always assumed they were going to slow play him. Now, I did say that he's like the clearest after a couple weeks, could be a starter, but I probably didn't expect it to be week 1. Now, week 2, week 3, if we still are seeing this for a couple more weeks, then I think the concern grows. But through 1 week, he missed a lot of camp. I just think let's let him get his win back. Don't rush a guy who's perennially injured back. And I just think he is a more talented player than Odell Beckham at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm selling. Obviously, I've been a big Rashad Bateman fan this offseason. You look at the 15-yard catch he had. He only had 3 targets in that game. He runs a little in and out route on the top of in the middle of the field. And Lamar Jackson gets pressured and starts to float left. And Rashad Bateman just kind of mirrors Lamar Jackson the whole way down until Lamar Jackson sees him. Mm-hmm. And it's those little things that make you think that he's going to end up getting that wide receiver 2 role. And then I just don't trust, Odell Beckham Jr. where he's at to be a full-time player. No offense to him. But definitely the wide receiver 2 on this team. I still think he has wide receiver 1 upside in fantasy. I love Zay. I love him. We've talked about this before. Todd Monken, last time he had an offense in the NFL, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were top 12 wide receivers. Mm-hmm. No reason why these 2 can't be top 24, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, I'll skip around just for a second so we can just stay with the Ravens before we move on here. Justice Hill, Dalton, is he the running back to own in Baltimore? Buy or sell Justice Hill as the RB1 in Raventown?
I mean, it's rough. I'm buying, but it's only because he is the closest skill set to J.K. Dobbins that I'm trusting that.
Yeah.
But this is another one of those weeks where I, as a fantasy owner, I probably would have went wild with my fab in a redraft league and taken Justice Hill because just as easily I could see Fournette or Kareem Hunt landing here.
Yeah.
Gus is what he is. He's 27 and a half years old with an ACL tear on his record now. So I'm not confident the explosiveness is there.
If this were 2020, it'd be a different story. And Gus Edwards would be running back 15.
Yeah. But we're probably going to see like all 3 of these guys mixing in now. I don't think any of them have the juice to be the RB1.
And by all 3, Melvin Gordon being the 3rd guy for now with potentially a veteran they signed. I mean, we've seen this movie, unfortunately, because there's been so many injuries, mainly to J.K. Dobbins, but also Gus Edwards in this backfield that they're going to cycle out veterans. It's going to be frustrating. I'm going to put myself down as skeptical. I need to see another week just because I know Hill has had his own injuries, but he's also had chances in years past to take a stranglehold on this job, and he hasn't. But that doesn't mean he couldn't. And what is making me at least a little more assured, maybe not assured, but maybe a little more optimistic this time around is that it was his job as the running back 2 until JK went down. And then it was a split. He was getting carries alongside JK. Now JK was getting the majority of the work, but obviously you have Justice Hill. You're not going to give him 80% of the work. So it makes sense that Gus was in there, but he, at least for now, seems to be ahead in the pecking order. Does that continue? I'm not sure, but I need to see more. Put it down as a skeptical, but I could see anything happening in these next 3 weeks in this backfield, including trading for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, no, I could see any of the above happening. And I don't know. We'll see. The game plan was probably a full workload for Dobbins and then scat back duties for Hill. And it very well might be the case that's why he saw the workload in the second half, because they had him in the game plan. And it was clear Gus Edwards was not a guy they planned on using at all until Dobbins went down.
Yeah. I'm so sad for JK, man. He was looking good in that first half plus 6 minutes or so. I think he caught 2 passes. He was gonna be a nice little pass catching day by his standards. And of course the second pass blows the Achilles. And it's one of those brutal things where he was holding out and had no leverage, but was trying to get a new contract. Now he blows out his Achilles and he'll be lucky to get more than a vet minimum next year. And we'll see what he looks like when he comes back. I mean, there more running backs have had a modicum of success now than 5 years ago, but it's tough. Got to feel for the guy who's been through so many injuries. injuries.
Yeah, it's tough, but I don't know what an Achilles. I mean, it can ruin your career, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Kansas City. Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. Dalton, are they droppable? Buy or sell Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore is droppable.
I'm selling. God, that hurts to say.
Me too.
Let's
Trust
start
us,
with
everybody.
Moore.
Trust us. We were more mad at them than you all were.
Yes,
On
yes.
Thursday night.
Sky Moore for sure. Like he ran 90% of the routes. He got one target.
I think it was two, but one of them was like not
very
really.
Catchable. Yeah.
It was a little catchable, but he would have had to be a little taller for it to be very catchable.
So just on that, like one of those, the process is there. He is the wide receiver 1/2. Like it's him and VS and Justin Watson at the top of the roster. So leaving him, he's definitely sitting on the bench this week till I see a little something.
Yeah, and I would just say, I agree with you on Sky that I'm less concerned about him than Toney. You would just like for him to have received more targets, get more open, and like clearly guys just weren't getting open, and it would have been nice for him to step up into that. But also, this is still a young player without much experience last year, and he was thrust into a bigger role than he was expecting as of Tuesday when Kelsey got hurt on like the literal last play of practice or close to it in their last practice before the game. So this looked like a team and a unit that did not have a game plan because they were expecting Kelsey until they couldn't have him.
Yeah. And then going to Kadarius Toney, runs 12 routes, gets 5 targets. Like, let's just start there. The insane targets per route run stat still goes on. It's like 40% on that alone. Yes, I know it's 1 for 5, and the one was a jet sweep that didn't look good. But everything else, like he was still getting separation. He's a guy who missed the entire training camp. And like
he did not look right on that jet sweep.
No.
He tried the cut, and it was like he tried, and then he just couldn't. And we're used to seeing him like his cuts are so electric. So when he did that, I was like, okay, he is not quite hit himself out there right now.
But then you look, and on his 5 targets, this is from ESPN Sports Stats and Info. He had an average of 12.2 separation, which would have led the NFL if he had run qualifying route number. Like he was getting separation. The issue was he had hands of stone. Again, same advice as Sky Moore. Don't start him this week. I don't care. I know it's going to be a shootout between us and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Don't do it. But I do not think it's worth dropping anybody yet till we have more clarity on what this offense looks like with Travis Kelce back in tow.
Yeah, and, on the drops, he had 4 career drops entering this game. He had 3, and thinking back on that, I think they're even being generous, and they could give him 1 more perhaps. I think he may have actually had 4. They're giving him 3. But yeah, I just think you've got to stay the course a little bit. Don't play him. Just hold him. Give him another week or 2, and you can make a decision at that point. But yeah, I'm hanging in there. Definitely not playing him. Definitely disappointing. But it's 1 week. We try not to overreact to 1 week because you can go back and find tweets and podcasts of week 1 topics, and some of them are like, oh my God, that was a thing for 1 week. I didn't even remember that, so.
Yeah, Carson Wentz was a top 5 quarterback.
Yep.
Some other fun ones, if we just want to run through some other week 1 highlights.
Go for it.
CH, Cordero Patterson, and the eventual cut in Jamin Robinson were RB1s last year.
Yep.
Cortland Sutton and Michael Thomas were wide receiver 1s. Gerald Everett and Tyler Conklin were top 8 tight ends. This was all conversations at the end of last season. OJ Howard had 2 touchdowns, and Michael Pittman had 13 targets. Like all of these were things that we were like, yeah, we were right.
Yep.
So it's week 1, things change, offenses change.
Yep. All right. A couple more before we get out of here. Tajay Spears will have flex value this season. Buy, sell, or skeptical?
I'm buying.
I'm going skeptical. Interesting.
I mean, he took Derrick Henry off the field. He's the first running back to do it in Tennessee history. And then, like, if
the touches didn't quite match the snaps, but yes.
Yes, but if like Ryan Tannehill plays a not terrible game, we like Tajay Spears was in on some of the drives where we might have seen more. There's a play. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
The wheel route?
Yes, it's the wheel route to Tajay Spears.
I was watching that live.
Legitimately, Tajay Spears could have caught a touchdown, and it would have been huge. Like, big dog's going to eat. Derrick Henry's going to get his. If you're listening to this, don't be like concerned that Derrick Henry's not who we think he is.
This is just a way for them to manage the snaps a little bit, but also still give him a lot of touches. Like, Tajay Spears can have flex value without it being at the true expense of Derrick Henry.
Yeah, the stats didn't connect, but if you're doing waivers and he's still on your waivers, I think you take him and you stash him. Because it's also like this is a 1-to-1 replacement almost.
Yeah, if Henry gets hurt, this is the running back 11 in weekly regs or something. You know,
and this is a guy compared to Jamal Charles in pre-draft. The only reason he dropped so low is he has no knees.
Yep. Which, you know, a concern long term, not as much this year, and hopefully next year if Henry's not there and he's the guy. But yeah, I'm still skeptical. I need to see more. Need to see a true commitment to getting him on the field past just 1 week. And you said it. Tannehill looks so bad in this game that I, for the first time, entertained the thought in my head that we may see a different starting quarterback in week 6. And that would be very bad for this offense if that were to happen.
Yes, that would be terrible. But I do think the Saints defense is a little better than we give them credit for.
Yep, that's true. For now, once all their guys on AARP are hurt in midseason, that may not be true.
That is fair.
All right, Dalton, 3 more. The first one we can be quick. Everyone knows our stance on it. But I also want to say, on behalf of people who were even pro Rachaad White, I think they even have to be concerned. Is it time to sound the alarm on Rachaad White? Buy, sell, skeptical.
I'm selling, and
really,
yes. Here's why.
Okay, you've lost me already.
Well, no, and if you drafted him, it's your own damn fault at this point. That's part of the reason. Like, you took this guy in the top 7 rounds. Okay, if you thought he was good, maybe you're selling, but he got 80% of the team's carries. Like this. The whole path to him being something was him just getting the workload, which he got week 1. I don't know. Like, I can't do much with it. You know, he's going to be bad. But in my opinion, I thought he was bad. And I also thought Sean Tucker would be involved more. And because Sean Tucker wasn't involved more, it's like, okay, well, there's something here. It's
but great. if he keeps being this bad, eventually that's going to happen.
I mean,
and you know what?
Cam Akers were the worst.
We're a week into his second season, and still the only nice thing people can say about him is he had this snap share with this target share with this rush share, all these shares. What did he do with it? Not jack. This
He's
guy
like in run.
Oh God. All right. I'm sounding the alarm. I already was before, but I think if you drafted him, you should also be at least radar on with this guy. The Chargers, Dalton, they finally found their RB2 in Joshua Kelly. Buy, sell, hold.
I'm buying, I think.
Me too.
The one thing I'll say is this Dolphins rush defense pretty terrible. I'm excited to see the Jets play them.
They were sorry, go ahead. I was thinking of the other. No, go ahead.
But for now, I'm buying it. It looks like Eckler might not play Sunday, which would really give us some, ideas. Because Isaiah Spiller is the guy they drafted, a guy I liked out of college, and then they have this Elijah Johnson, undrafted free agent. The other 2 backs in the roster, Joshua Kelly, he's the only back that stuck around. Mm-hmm. I mean, they lost Larry Roundtree, and I don't remember the other back they had last year. But all in all, I'm buying it. He got the workload you wanted. I definitely think he's worth a stash on your roster, and he's definitely on waivers.
Yep. To answer a question from PD in here, should I pick up the Chargers defense? It's that or the Texans. I'll have to look up who the Texans play. The Chargers play the Titans. Not the worst idea to play against Tannehill after what was displayed last week. I'll look up the Texans here while I talk. But yeah, I'm buying it with Kelly too. Like, I think that he looks like a different player than when he first came into the league, and we were, we had hopes for him, and he was getting a lot of DNP CDs, and he was losing work to other running backs that were no longer in the league. And he just looks like a different guy right now. I was pretty impressed. I mean, he had 16 carries, which in itself is something that really hasn't happened behind Eckler since Melvin Gordon, and then over 90 yards. And Eckler's been saying for years, he wants somebody to be able to come in and pick up that slack and do that. So yeah, I'm buying Josh Kelly as the RB2. Maybe that means he has low-end flex appeal, and then obviously you want him for situations like this where maybe Eckler does not play this weekend. The Texans play the Colts. I'm not quite as in to playing them against Anthony Richardson, but I don't hate it. I don't know, which of those defenses do you prefer, Dalton?
I'm going with the Chargers. I think they actually have a good defense, and the Dolphins just had a better game plan.
Yeah.
I mean, J.C. Jackson got put in a blender by them, but like the Titans look legitimately terrible. And Joey Bosa is going to sack Ryan Tannehill, or Nick Bosa, whichever Bosa plays for the Chargers.
Joey.
Yeah, is going to sack Ryan Tannehill at least 5 times, which are free points. So I'm sticking there.
All right, last one. James Cook is the clear lead running back in Buffalo. Buy, sell, skeptical.
Yeah, I'll buy that one, but I don't know how long it's going to last for. Is my take on that one? He didn't look great.
I'm skeptical. I'm surprised that I'm lower on the James Cook experience than you.
Do you think it's just a committee?
I just think that because I know Damian Harris got 3 touches. Latavius Murray was pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that this was such a weird and bad offensive game from the Bills. They weren't really hardly in the red zone. There just really weren't the down and distance opportunities too often to get those other guys on the field. They didn't have 8 plays inside the 20. Now they're going to score on big plays too, but they weren't going up and down the field and having all these red zone opportunities where I think we would have seen more of those other guys. So I'm skeptical. I want to see what it looks like when this offense is humming and they have a traditional workload opportunity for the running back room, just to see what it looks like. Because I'm with you. I'm just not too impressed with James Cook. He's fast, but that I'm not really sure what else he is,
Yeah, I mean, he had 4 targets and Damian Harris had 2 targets and Latavius Murray had 1 target. I don't know. He's never had more than 160 touches his entire career. I'm skeptical he can do it. We'll see. I mean, this Bills offense has an easy get-right game against the Raiders next week. So we'll certainly figure out what that running back room. I'm not starting him anytime soon for sure, because I still think Damian Harris is the lead back when it comes to red zone work on this team.
Yep. That's kind of what I think too, or at least I want to see them in those situations more so we can see that actually bear out before I plant my flag, which I feel like I've seen some flag plants on James Cook this week, and I'm just not quite ready.
Don't do week 1 victory laps.
Yeah, it a lot of times doesn't work out. We definitely took a couple in the show. I hope those work out, but we're obviously putting ourselves at risk by doing that as well.
Rashad White, trash. Zay Flowers, good.
I think we're at least doing it with good and bad players. Whereas James Cook, I think he's average. I think he's fine, but I'm not doing a victory lap in the positive manner for a guy who I'm just not I'm not buying the talent that I've seen yet.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Dalton, that is going to do it for episode 117 of the Half Point Per Podcast. Give us a follow, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Half Point Per Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube. The link to all of that, as always, in the show notes. We will answer your questions live on the show as they come in, if they come in as well. The show is available anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. Leave us a review. Enjoy week 2. We will talk to you guys again with what I'm sure will be a fun and eventful week 2 look back next week.